Good evening. We'd like to welcome all of you to the Pitt County Board of Commissioners evening meeting. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Madam.
Yes, Chairman McLaughlin.
Here.
Vice Chairman Colson.
Here.
Commissioner Albright.
Here.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Here.
Commissioner Nunnally.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner White. Here. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Here.
Everyone is present.
At this time, we have invocation by Commissioner Albright and the pledge by Commissioner Colson. Please stand, please.
Dear God, we thank you for this day and for our many blessings. And on this day especially, we ask that you be with our veterans and their families and comfort them. Please be with us this evening and guide us and protect us all as we negotiate these difficult days. Amen.
Face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we're going to ask Janet Single to comment on the issue of oath of office. Okay.
Vice Chairman Colson.
Come up there.
Yes, sir. Place your left hand and raise your right. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I, Tom Colson, will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North
Can we
Carolina.
slow that down a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
I, Tom Colson, swear that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the North Carolina state
Of the United States.
of the United States
And the Constitution and laws.
and the Constitution and laws
Of North
of
Carolina.
North Carolina,
Not consistent therewith.
not inconsistent therewith,
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
As Pitt County Commissioner, so help me God.
as Pitt County Commissioner, so help me God. Thank you, Janet.
Chairman McLaughlin. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I, Melvin McLaughlin,
I do solemnly swear as Melvin McLaughlin
will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
as Pitt County Commissioner, so help me God.
as Pitt County Commissioner. So help me God.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I, Beth Ward,
I do solemnly swear or affirm that I, Beth Ward,
will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
as Pitt County Commissioner, so help me God.
as Pitt County Commissioner, so help me God.
Commissioner White. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I, Lauren White,
I do solemnly swear or affirm that I, Lauren White,
will support the Constitution and laws of the United United States
will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
as Pitt County Commissioner, so help me God.
as Pitt County Commissioner, so help me God.
At this time, we shall have the election of officers by our county attorney, Ms. Gallagher.
Yes, good evening. At this time, as we do each year, I will preside over your meeting to seek nominations for the offices of chair and vice chair. As you know, pursuant to your rules of procedure, anyone can nominate any member of the board, and then we will accept once nominations are finished, then we will vote in reverse order from the last name nominated to the first name nominated. There does not need to be a second in order to make a nomination, and we don't need a motion to open or close nominations. When we finish with the seat of chair, we'll then move to vice chair. Any questions about the process? If not, I'll proceed to accept nominations for the seat of chair.
I nominate Tom Colson.
Are there any other nominations for the seat of chair?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nunley has his hand up.
Commissioner Nunley?
Thank you. I nominate Commissioner Antoine Watkins.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we will vote in reverse order. So the first person to vote for chair would be Ann Huggins. All those in favor of Ann Huggins as chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, and given the, if we could redo that by hand, so we can count those votes. Those in favor of Ann Huggins, please raise your right hand. 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, that passes 6-3. Congratulations, Ann. And then that ends your nominations for chair. Congratulations. We will then move on to the seat of vice chair. I'll open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
Commissioner Michael Fitzpatrick, please.
Okay. Are there other nominations for vice chair?
I move that we accept his nomination by acclamation or whatever.
Okay. Hearing no other nominations, there's been a motion to accept by acclamation. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor? Please raise your right hand. Okay. Congratulations, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Just for the record, who seconded that motion?
Alex. And that concludes your election of officers for the next year. Given the code, typically we would break and rearrange seating. Given the pandemic, we're going to stay in your current seats. Is that right?
Yes, and the new chair will just take over from where she's sitting.
Just for safety precautions. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Chair Huggins.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Attorney, for presiding over the election. And then we will move to approve of the agenda.
Madam Chairman, we have 2 items to add to the agenda. One item would be an additional item to report, being the very first one. We've had a request to have Dr. Silvernell address the board tonight on the status of COVID-19 in Pitt County, so that would come before the Biden Health Report. Second item, we have a good news item, an item for decision. This regards a DSS matter regarding a CDBG-CV coronavirus grant application they applied for a while back that you approved. This is for eviction and eviction assistance and utility assistance, and our DSS Director, Johnny Elliott, will be addressing that. So if the board would be amenable, you have a copy of the abstract for the CDBG CV item in front of you.
And if this would also be the appropriate time to note that the board will need to take a recess prior to your quasi-judicial hearing, so that we may then move into a live meeting format, and then you'll need a recess again after that in order to allow virtual participation again.
Okay, so after the public hearing,
Before the public hearing, we'll
Before-
recess, and then after the public hearing, we'll recess.
Madam Chair, a motion to approve the agenda with the necessary addition as described by our manager.
I second that.
okay, it's been moved and seconded that the agenda be approved with the additions to it. All in favor, say, could we call the roll?
Yes, you have to call the roll on the original.
Yes, call the vote.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes?
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Chair Boyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. At this time, I believe we have a presentation, and I'm going to ask the county manager, and I'm going to ask our immediate past chair, Melvin McGawhorn, to assist the manager with this presentation.
Yes, Madam Chairman, if we can also get a motion to approve and then a roll call.
I so move.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and second, the approval of the resolution. Will you call the roll?
Commissioner McGawhorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes?
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Chair Boyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
So if Commissioner McLaughlin will join me at the front. Anybody else who'd like to come up? We'd like his daughter Esther Hammond to come up as well. Anybody in the audience who'd like to participate? So tonight we have prepared a resolution to honor former County Commissioner Reverend David Hammond. It is always difficult at times to read resolutions on the subject matter. This one will be helpful because my face mask on, I have a little bit, but I will. So we have a resolution entitled Resolution Commemorating Reverend David. Whereas Reverend David Hammond selfishly served the County Commissioner between the summer 1998 and March of 2017. Whereas Reverend David Hammond is an elected official providing steadfast leadership and navigating for citizens concerned in District 1 and all over the county for 19 years. Whereas Reverend David Hammond served as Vice Chairman in 2000, served as Chairman in 2001 and 2010. Whereas Reverend David Hammond served on numerous boards and committees that covered a wide spectrum of county's appointed boards. Whereas Reverend Hammond was a dedicated public servant who devoted much of his time to his community, beginning with his work in ministry in 1971. Whereas Reverend Hammond possessed a distinct ability to communicate in a way that resonated with such that few words could create an impact on a message, such as to say, when you're out below the seas, your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall. And another one, you either pay to educate or pay to incarcerate. These are just two of many sayings that we have in the public. The next says, and whereas Reverend Hammond will long be remembered not only for his devotion to his constituents, but also for his dedication to representing all the county residents and providing them with a more effective voice in the decisions made for and on behalf of Pitt County. And whereas it is with deep sympathy, Pitt County Board of Commissioners acknowledge the death of Reverend David Hammond, who departed this life on November 17, 1920. Now therefore be it resolved, the Pitt County Board of Commissioners hereby honors Reverend David Hammond as we remember him for his dedicated public service, his many contributions to the deep affection for all citizens of Pitt County. This is adopted on the 7th day of December 2020 and signed by our former chairman, Alderman Warren, and attested by our clerk, Henry David Thomas.
Very much. I want to say on behalf of the commission, I want to thank you for sharing your father with us for almost 20 years in the school. And he certainly will be missed, and we're going to continue our prayers for you and the family.
Thank you. I certainly want to echo the resolve of that resolution and that David really was a dedicated public servant and his deep affection for the citizens of the county. Thank you. At this time, we have a break before we do.
Yes, we'll recess to
Recess.
go to all in-person live meeting with all the commissioners in attendance.
Do we need a motion?
As chair, you can declare your recess to
Okay, I
reconvene
declare-
as soon as we're ready.
Okay, I declare a recess.
If our public information office will give us the all clear to proceed, we can, okay, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
we're good to go. We're not clear.
We're not clear? We're clear, we just don't work.
Guess our PowerPoint's not moving.
It will.
There we go.
It's doing. We're now back in session. Mr. Rose?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Good to have you tonight. We have two public hearings for your consideration tonight. Both concern conditional use permits. And of course, we'll go through a quasi-judicial procedure for hearing both of those tonight. The first one is Fresh Air Energy. This is for solar energy facility that will be located, if approved tonight, near the Griffin community. We'll get into the details in a minute. This is, again, a conditional use permit. So with the quasi-judicial procedures, a Again, this is pretty much scripted as a legal proceeding. We'll be hearing and establishing facts tonight. Anyone wishing to speak should be placed under oath. We're here to collect evidence tonight. Hearsay, although it can be presented tonight, should not be what we decide or base our decisions on tonight. There will be a detailed communication or detailed record, no ex parte communication, so if anyone, any of the commissioners may have had any discussion with anyone outside of the meeting, it should be disclosed before any votes tonight. Written findings of facts are required, and reasons for disapproval also must be provided in writing. Your decision, if it's appealed, would go to Superior Court. So with that, Madam Chair, we'd like to start procedures tonight by swearing in anyone that wishes to speak. And any of those that have signed up, you want to bring people up one at a time?
I mean, for the attorney's recommendation, we're just going to do it from their seats, and they'll just stand up if you signed up to speak or have a desire to speak. Raise your right hand and affirm. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Just say I do.
And again, the request tonight is with Fresh Air Energy for a solar energy facility, also commonly referred to as a solar farm. You may recall we did have this prepared and ready for your September 14th quasi-judicial procedure, but it was requested that this be delayed, and this was the first opportunity to bring it back before you tonight. Just to orient you a bit as to where this is located, what's shown in blue and also the pink color on the screen, this is the town of Grifton. The pink area is actually the corporate limits, and this area here is significant because that is an existing solar farm that's just adjacent to the site that we'll be speaking of tonight. The blue area here is also the extraterritorial jurisdiction for the town. This is just outside the corporate and ETJ area for Grifton, so our Pitt County zoning ordinance would apply in this case. And again, a little bit more orientation. Two parcels are involved in this. The full parcel for Thomas and Trudy Tyson, and then also a portion of Mary McLaughlin's property. And all of this is north of NC 118. All total, it's about, if you combine the full two parcels, it's well over 680 acres. About 300 acres would be included in the solar farm proper, and that's what we have a site plan on. So again, just to orient you a little bit as far as our zoning ordinance, all of the area that we're looking at tonight, the full 297 acres is entirely within the rural agricultural zoning district. And again, this type of use, the solar farm, is allowed by a conditional use permit in this area. As far as our land use plan, similarly, you'll see the patterns are somewhat similar here. This is also in a residential or rural agricultural area. Small area that's also within the ag open area, natural resource area. That's predominantly because of a small area of floodplain. It's kind of on this southeast corner down here. And then the existing land uses. This is a very rural area of the county. The area that are the areas that are shown in gold are residential, existing residential areas. So you can see some of those just to the east here and also over to the southeast. But predominantly this is all rural right in the general vicinity here and undeveloped, primarily agricultural land. In your agenda package tonight also, you'll see all the different design requirements and setback requirements that are associated with these types of uses. Just to start out with, for solar energy facilities, anyone that comes through, just like the one you dealt with at your September meeting, there are minimum setback from property lines, so any of those adjacent property lines, at a minimum, none of these facilities will be within 50 feet. Then there's also additional setback requirements for distances between the facilities and residences, if those are there, and an increased setback for where inverters are located on this property. And we'll show you the site plan in just a minute. Maximum height of 25 feet. Also the submittal requirements, and all of this complete submittal package has been submitted to our office and reviewed. One thing that you'll see as part of your package tonight is the decommissioning plan. I know that's you've had some discussion and some concerns about that previously. That's in detail in your package tonight. Also, structural requirements and fencing requirements, all these other criteria have to be met as part of this conditional use permit. So this is just to orient you. This is not the same view that we were just looking at, but that's the complete site. To get into a little bit more detail, this is the area to the north, a portion of the property that's to the north of Brown Hodges Road. And Brown Hodges Road is right on the southern edge here. So just to give you an idea, this is the blue area here are all the solar arrays or panels that will be installed on this particular section. There's also, as we'll flip through, that's where all the solar arrays are located. Then you also have some natural features that are part of this site plan. These are riparian buffer areas right through here, these waterways, and then there's also some existing vegetation along the perimeter in some areas. The inverters, and this is, if you've been to a solar farm before, these are where all the panels lead into and where the actual energy is fed into, and then further you'll see on another segment of the development where it ties into the grid or the power facility. Vegetation is a big issue here. We're trying to screen these facilities best we can from roadways and adjacent properties. So there's some existing vegetation that'll stay. In addition, the petitioner is actually going a step beyond what's required by our zoning ordinance, and with some more intensive type buffering. They're called enhanced buffering here, with additional canopy trees and shrubs along the perimeter in certain areas, those shown in red. Also in this bottom portion, this is the portion between Brown Hodges Road to the north and NC 118 to the south. Similarly, those kind of chartreuse colored areas will be the solar panels, some natural features there again with the drainage ways, inverters, and you can see the overhead utility easements. That is where the inverters will feed the energy back into the grid system to Duke Energy. Similarly, existing vegetation will be retained along the border in certain areas, and then there's additional buffering requirements in certain areas, as well as the enhanced area that they volunteered to put this in as part of the site plan. And there's your substation, again, tying back into the grid, so everything feeds into the substation. So in any of these cases, when we're dealing with a conditional use permit, the board has to determine whether there are any adverse effects to the community, and specifically these particular criteria. Will this particular site materially endanger the public health or safety? Staff's response to that, based on the information in your package tonight, since it is a solar farm and it is does not produce any harmful emissions, and it's going to be screened from the adjacent properties, we do not feel that there's any material endangerment to the surrounding areas. Will it injure the value or adjacent property for the adjacent property owners? We believe that will not. Again, it is adjacent to an existing solar farm to the west, and then very sparsely developed areas, primarily agricultural production in the general vicinity. Is it in harmony with the area? We believe that it is. Again, it's adjacent to an existing solar farm, and with the setbacks and the screening that's made available, we believe it is in harmony. Is it in conformity with the land use plan and other plans adopted by the Board of Commissioners? We believe that it is. So with that, Madam Chair, we have two recommendations for tonight. First one is to acknowledge that the conditional use permit application is complete and complies with the applicable regulations from the zoning ordinance. And then secondly, approve the conditional use subject to the development standards that were listed earlier in Section 8, and also the following additional conditions. First, a revised site plan. There were some things that needed to be shown a little bit differently. All the stream features that we've indicated will require a 50-foot riparian buffer unless otherwise exempted, and obtain any of the necessary driveway permit from the DOT, because all these driveway accesses will be onto state-maintained roads. And with that, Madam Chair, we're ready for the public hearing on this item.
The public hearing is now open, and we will hear from.
Madam Chairman, we have 5 people signed up. If you'd like, I'll call their names out and
Okay.
ask them to come forward. And if the attorney will read our policy regarding public hearings.
Yes.
Yes, Pitt County welcomes comments on all matters of public concern. When you come up to the podium, please state your name and your address, and I'll keep your time at 5 minutes per speaker. And I'll let you know when you're finished.
Our first speaker is Philip Martin. Sure. So our first speaker will be Mike Fox. He's on the list.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson and Board of Commissioners. My name is Mike Fox, and I have an address of 400 Bellmead Street in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm with the law firm of Tuggle Duggins, and I represent the applicant here tonight. First of all, thank you for having this hearing and having it in a safe and COVID-compliant environment. We appreciate that, and we appreciate the county's willingness to continue to try to do business in a safe way. So thank you for that. I know that you're familiar with solar and you've seen solar before, so we will be brief. What I'd like to do is after I speak, have 3 additional people speak. They'll give you a summary of what their testimony is and give you their credentials. And I've got some materials I can hand out too that's essentially the written version of their summary and their testimony. First, I'll have Philip Martin come up and speak. Philip is with Ecoplexus, which is the applicant, and he's a expert in solar development. Philip has been in the industry for many years, and Philip will be able to answer any questions you have about the site plan, the setbacks, the buffers, conditions, things like that, as well as Philip can answer any questions that you might have about the company and the applicant and the particular site, the landowners, etc. Next, I'll have Nick Kirkland come up. Nick is with Kirkland Appraisals, and we have asked Nick and his firm to do a study of whether or not any adjoining property values would be impacted by this site, and Nick will give you his credentials and he'll give you his opinion that after concluding his study that there would be no adverse impact on the property values adjacent to this site. And we've got a report that I can hand out to you as well to go along with Nick's testimony. And last but not least, I have Chris Sandifer. Chris is a licensed engineer in multiple states, had a long career with Duke Energy, is an expert in solar energy and how solar farms operate, how they're built, and Chris will give you his credentials and then give you his summary opinion that the solar farm like this would not present any health or public safety issues. And all of these folks will be glad to answer any questions that you have, or if there are any members of the public who come up later that have a question, we're happy to come back and try to answer those as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have as well. We do feel that, with the testimony that I've described earlier tonight, that we'll meet the 4 prongs of your ordinance, which is that the use won't materially endanger the public health and safety, that the use won't substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, that it'll be in harmony with the neighborhood or area in which it's to be located, and it'll be in general conformity with the land use plan adopted by the Board of Commissioners. Before I finish up and ask if you have any questions for me, I do want to thank the staff. They've been great to work with. This has been a long process, but they've given you a very excellent summary of the site and everything, and they've really taken a lot of the stuff that I would normally say, and they've done it very well on a PowerPoint, so I appreciate that. And with that, I'm finished unless you have questions for me, and I'll have Mr. Martin come up.
Okay, next to Philip Martin, please.
Thank you.
Again, please state your name and your address.
My name is Philip Martin. My address is 600 Park Offices Drive, Durham, North Carolina 27709. Madam Chairwoman, Board, thank you for having us tonight. We appreciate it. This project, I'm the Director of Community Engagement for Ecoplexus. We're based out of Durham, North Carolina. This project, Grifton PV2, we've been working on this since we originally got our certificate of public necessity from the Utilities Commission in 2017. It's been a long process. We started the zoning process in early March. We started moving that forward, and then we all know what happened in March, so the world kind of stopped. So it took a little while to get this in front of you, but we appreciate you hearing us tonight. Ecoplexus develops, owns, and operates solar projects throughout the United States. Roughly have 80 projects across the United States. About 25 of them are in North Carolina. We have offices in Durham, San Francisco, Dallas, Mexico City, and Tokyo. I had a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm not going to show that right now unless there are specific questions. I think that your staff did a wonderful job of going over the high points of that, and I don't want to waste your time or regurgitate that same information. This is a 56 megawatt project. It's roughly 298 acres of area within the fence line. We have 2 landowners we're working with. Both parcels we're using are currently agricultural land. The largest parcel is being farmed by our landowner. We are going to purchase that property once this project moves forward. The other is a lease, and that farmer will move to another portion of our landowner's property to continue farming his operation. As we said, we're meeting all your setbacks, all your requirements. As staff said, we're 50 feet off of our any type of ecological feature. Some solar farms you've seen in the past use chain link fences 6 feet with 3 strands of barbed wire. We don't do that. We use an 8-foot deer buster fence. That was in a partnership with the Nature Conservancy of North Carolina. Basically, no barbed wire. It has slightly larger openings for smaller animals to pass through. Larger animals can jump the fence and not get stuck in. We've had some very interesting trail cam photos of those animals and the kind of habitat that they use. They can use the shade from our solar panels. It's fairly interesting. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have about Ecoplexus, about the site plan, anything that we have going on, I'm here to answer, and I will open the floor to you now.
Any questions?
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate the introduction of the canopy trees at your initiative. My question is related to, we have heard some complaints within our community about the use of herbicides on the ground, and I wonder if you could address what's the actual ground cover and how is the ground treated?
So the ground cover, we generally try to use a native grass. Depending on the jurisdiction, we'll try to use pollinators, try to help the bee population. A lot of times if we're using that type of ground cover, it's mostly kind of a white clover. So it doesn't grow high anyway. If we're using herbicides, it's generally along the fence line. For the most part, those are areas that are just easier to manage that way. We're not spraying herbicides all over the field. It's less herbicide use than typical agricultural use.
Any other questions?
Okay, so
Mr.
next
Manager?
next we have Nick
Thank
Kirkland.
you. Thank you.
Again, please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Nick Kirkland, and my address is 9408 Northfield Court, Raleigh. I'm a licensed residential real estate appraiser in the state of North Carolina. I've been accepted as an expert in property value impacts and hearings just like this about 65 times. I've been an appraiser for about 5.5 years, and over the course of that time, I've researched over 600 solar farms just like this. At Kirkland Appraisals, we have looked at over 700 solar farms across the country. Over 500 of those have been located within North Carolina. This is a very similar proposed solar farm to what we typically see. It's located in a rural area, which is predominantly where solar farms are located, where most of the adjoining uses are agricultural by acreage and residential by number of adjoining uses. This one's actually more rural than typical. It has more agricultural adjoining uses than what we often see, and it's very similar to where we would expect to find a solar farm. And based on this information, it's my professional opinion that the proposed solar farm will be a harmonious use in its location. Matched pair or paired sales analysis, it's a methodology that we use that's supported by the Appraisal Institute, and it's outlined in detail in the Appraisal Institute textbook, Real Estate Damages, which is written by Dr. Randall Bell. And in short, what we do is we compare a sale that's occurred next to an existing solar farm and compare that property to a similar property that sold that was not adjacent to the solar farm. And after adjusting for differences, trying to figure out what impact, if any, did the solar farm have for the adjacent parcel. We have over 31 match pairs within this impact study, and other match pairs that, just for size and brevity in the report, didn't make the cut, that we have that all support no impact to adjoining property values. And they are shown on page 33 of the impact study. I believe that's been passed out to you or will be passed out to you. And so those range from negative 10% to positive 6% with an overall median and average of plus 2%, which is within typical market friction and is considered no impact. And based on this information, it's my professional opinion that the proposed solar farm will not impact the adjoining property values. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Any questions? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Curtin.
Okay, next you have Chris Sandifern. That's not correct. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for letting us present tonight. My name is Chris Sandifern. I live at 3118 Green Road, Spring Hope, North Carolina, in Nash County. As Mr. Fox said, I am a licensed electrical engineer in many states and most along the eastern coast. I am a licensed electrical contractor in the state of North Carolina with unlimited classification have installed many farms such as this, the interconnection portion. I did work for Duke for 30 years. The last 5 years or so, that was the process of interconnecting from the utility side, interconnecting renewable energy such as this, mostly solar farms, but some other types as well. I serve on the Nash County Planning Board where we've approved 37 utility scale solar farms to date, and the Board of Commissioners has also approved those. Most of those have been built. I'm a landowner, a farmer. I have 100 acres of land that's under panels, and I don't intend to live long enough to see them taken out. So I've done this for my children, my grandchildren, so that's my confidence that this is a good technology and will not negatively impact them or the value of the property. I know you guys are familiar with solar. You're familiar with the basic components, and they were already described. There's no new technology here. This technology has been around. The solar farm, the panels have been around for 50+ years. The racking, the galvanized steel, transformation, it's been around well over 100 years. And so there are no studies to indicate that this type of technology would negatively impact health or safety of the residents of the county. And it's my professional opinion that if this project is installed the way it's designed, it will not negatively impact the health or safety. And I will answer any questions you have on the installation, the operation, the maintenance, or the removal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one last speaker signed up, Forrest Coldren. Don't need to speak.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, unless there's somebody else in the audience who'd like to speak, and can come forward. I believe we've sworn all those who needed to, but so we can swear an additional person in if there's anybody else. I do not see anybody.
Do we?
And again, Madam Chair, for tonight, you'll need to close the public hearing,
Okay.
and we can talk about the motions.
All right. At this time, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll hear from Ms. Rhodes. Any questions?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept, acknowledge, and approve both motion 1 and 2.
I second that motion. All those motions.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve motion, recommendation of the two motions, motion 1 and motion 2. Those, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Colston,
No.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Chair Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 7 to 1.
Okay. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, for our next conditional use permit, if we can usher maybe our first group out, we have a couple of others that we need to bring in that are waiting in the vehicles. Second conditional use permit request, this is for Angelicia Villarreal. She is requesting a conditional use permit for an in-home daycare. And similarly, this will go through quasi-judicial procedures that we've already discussed. And we'd like to move forward then, Madam Chair, with swearing in of anyone that wishes to speak on this case.
Do we have anyone?
If those wishing to speak can stand up and take an affirmation. Is anyone wishing to speak?
Would we like Ms. Israel?
Ms. Villarreal.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
And again, this is a request by Ms. Villarreal for a conditional use permit for residential daycare. This is located in Crystal Acres subdivision, which is off of Old River Road on 15, or I should say 555 Jonathan Place. She is requesting that daycare would be allowed to operate between 6 a.m. and 12 a.m., or that being midnight. And just remember, our zoning ordinance does not allow daycares to operate 24 hours continuously. Just to orient you a bit, this is Old River Road. The silver-colored area here is actually an active sand mine by the Department of Transportation with its access back out to Old River Road. Here's the lot within Crystal Acres subdivision off Jonathan's Place. And this is all within the rural agricultural or rural residential area. And you can also see a small rural agricultural area to the south. This is our land use plan designations. And really the dividing line is between the area that's in rural agricultural and that of open space, which is really what corresponds with the 100-year floodplain. So it just happens that this property is divided, pretty much the backyards within the open area, natural resource area, the other areas are the front sides within the residential or rural agricultural area. Not surprisingly, since this is a residential subdivision, those areas in gold are residential lots. Those are shown, as well as open farmland on just about the remainder of this tract, except for the sand mine, again, that's located right in this area. Similarly, with our zoning ordinance, there are certain requirements that go along with daycares. In this case, there is fencing required, at least 8-foot high fence around any areas for outdoor activity. In the residential areas, I've mentioned already, these are not allowed to work or operate within a full 24-hour basis. And outdoor activities are permitted only during daylight hours. Similarly, we look at this just as with the solar farm to ensure there are no adverse effects, and we'll go through those. Will it endanger the public health or safety? Staff believes that it will not. Again, it is the daycare for children, and some of those children are actually could possibly be within the same neighborhood. Will it injure the value of the adjoining or abutting property? Again, this is a residential daycare, not a commercial type daycare, and it will be within a residential structure and should not substantially injure any of the adjacent property values. Is it in harmony with the area? We believe that it is. Again, a residential daycare within a residential neighborhood, and we believe it will be in harmony with the area. Is it in conformity with the land use plan and other plans adopted by the board? We believe that it is. So with that, staff is recommending approval, and just so you know, this property has been previously approved for conditional use permit for an in-home daycare as well. So with that, since it's been inactive, now the conditional use permit is being requested again. And first, that the conditional use permit application is complete, and then secondly, subject to those requirements within the zoning ordinance, including the additional requirement that hours of operation are limited from 6 a.m. till midnight. And with that, Madam Chair, we're ready for the public hearing.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open. Do we have any?
Madam Chairman, we have one person signed up, Ms. Villarreal. She'd like to come forward. Would you like to make any comments, or if you come to the podium, please, if you would.
Mr. Manager, do we have any opposition?
Or is-
Just recognize.
You have to make a motion to approve.
I'd like to second that motion.
I've been in the daycare field for a couple of years, and I enjoy working with kids, and I'm ready to branch off and do my own, get back to the community and just be my entrepreneur, you know. So I'm hoping that
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody speaking against it?
Madam Chairman, there's nobody else signed up on the list.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, what is your?
At this time, I'd make a motion to
Oh,
accept
let's-
the recommendation.
Second. We already have motions.
Yeah, we already had one. Okay, it's been moved and said, properly second, that we accept the recommendation from staff, motion 1 and 2. Madam Chair, not
Commissioner
Madam Clerk.
Ballhorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Vice Chair Captain Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Chair Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So,
You'll need to recess to go back into your virtual meeting.
okay, we will now recess to go back into regular meeting.
To proceed?
We have public address to the board.
Yes, ma'am.
Next. Do we have anybody signed up?
There's nobody signed up unless there's somebody in the audience who'd like to come forward. I see nobody
Okay.
rising.
If not, we will move to item for report. Scott?
Yes, Madam Chairman, you as a board had added Dr. Silvernail to the agenda, so he'll be your first public address to the board for a COVID-19 update for Pitt County.
Madam Chairman, are you ready for me to begin?
Yes. Thank you.
I'm going to try to share my screen here. So if you all can see that, you go full screen.
We have a full, there you go.
There you go. Good evening, Madam Chair, and congratulations on your election this evening. Greetings, other commissioners.
Thank you.
I apologize for not being there personally, as you know, I am convalescing from COVID myself and did not feel that I should be in public yet. So I have been working from home and decided to present from home. As the nation and the state have seen tremendous growth in COVID-19 cases, so is Pitt County. This Thursday will make 38 weeks for 19 patient cycles since the first case of COVID-19 was identified in Pitt County. Our case counts as of noon today, December 7th, 2020. We have 1,243 active cases. Those are the cases that we accumulated over the past 14 days. That's an average rate of about 89 cases per day, significantly elevated from, say, the end of October, where it really started to build up just after Halloween. If you do the active cases per 1,000 calculation, we are at 6.7 active cases per 1,000 Pitt County residents right now. Prior to this most recent surge, we were in the low threes, we were 3.1 to maybe 3.4 cases per 1,000 Pitt County residents, so about double what we were in terms of active cases since the end of October, beginning of November. To date, we have accumulated 8,741 total cases. That represents about 4.7% of the Pitt County population as having been infected or known to have been infected or was infected with COVID-19. We would estimate, based on time from infection, that about 7,440 individuals have recovered, or about 85% of those cases we would consider recovered. And unfortunately, we have lost 58 individuals to COVID-19 in Pitt County, and likely add some more before this is over. Our case fatality rate is currently at 0.7, unrounded to 0.66, but we're showing that one significant figure. So today at 0.7. During the epidemic, that ranged from a low of 0.5 to a high of 0.7. And per the state data source, our testing percent of positivity across all Pitt County testing is at 9.7% today. So it's significantly elevated. If we were to look back to the end of October, we were in the low 60s. So we were 6.1, 6.2. Occasionally we were in below 6%. So we are up pretty significant change over the past month in testing positivity. Going to move on, the following slides show a breakdown of cases by varying analytics so that you can see where the cases are distributed across Pitt County. This first slide, the blue bars, the blue in the bars represents cases that do not live in congregate living. The orange, these are the which orange is not in color. Portion of the bars represents cases that are in long-term care facilities or other congregate living facilities. As you can see, we had a good total of that towards the end of May and June. We had another beautiful summer, which kind of settled down. Next graph shows COVID cases for each week by earliest identification of symptoms in the race and ethnicity. The reddish bar at the bottom are African Americans. And that has been relatively steady recently. There's been a little bit of drop off in the number of African American cases that we see in our data set. This sort of bluish color represents white Caucasians. This purple or lavender color is Hispanics. The green is colored. And this sort of khaki color is unknown and missing race and ethnicity data. So we see increase in proportion of cases of whites. Will actually be a little bit of a decrease in cases amongst African Americans. The next graph shows this epidemic curve by age. I want to point out that this sort of lavender bar again, which represents our school age children. There's been a little bit of an increase when you look at the state website. These graphs are from NCEDS. This is part of the report I get every Wednesday from NCEDS. So this is from last week's report. The percentage in our school age children is remaining pretty level, about 10% across the epidemic. So while we've had growth in cases, we've not had growth in our school age children cases. 18 to 24-year-old represents our college age students, maybe just a very few of our seniors. You can see back in the summertime that was one of our PCVPs, these 3 weeks of ABCVP. As we get into most of our growth, most recently has been in the young adult population, 25 to 39-year-old population, and in that age group, that's the sort of bluish colored bar on the graph. As that has taken over again, it's the largest group of folks who are being affected with COVID-19. Fortunately, we see relatively small numbers in the 75 and older, but when we look at our distribution of deaths, many of our deaths come from that 75 and older age group, which is probably our smallest age group on the graph. Next graph, this is number of tests completed. The black line is percentage of positivity. I would disagree, this one should be a little bit higher. In our internal calculations back in April, we had a day when we hit 21%. Using the Pitt County numbers, this represents the ECU spike where we were well up into the teens, 18%. And then we came down, the CBA come down and settled out at around 6%. And recently, starting again around Halloween, we began to climb and remain at 9%, 9.7%. Today, still a little below the state, which is over 10%, but significantly Our health department testing will continue its open testing through December 17th. We will continue to test as part of our contact investigation and tracing indefinitely. We found that if we give people an appointment time and they can drive up and meet our staff in the parking lot and get their contact tracing or contact investigation testing done, that's we have a much higher success rate than that and having to come to the open line. We suspect that our testing crew is going to have to pivot to COVID vaccine administration during the week of December 21st. Per a call with the state earlier today, they're expecting the local health departments to receive COVID vaccines sometime that week of December 21st. And we will likely begin with immunization as per the state level, which will include first responders, vaccine availability. I want to bring to your attention again some staffing issues at the health department. By this week's end, we will have 7 vacant full-time nursing positions in the personal health division. That is the largest division in the health department. These are folks who work in our clinic, work in our various personal health programs, and we have struggled to fill positions. We do have a nurse coming in January, but going through the month of December, we will have 7 full-time nursing positions vacant in our personal health division. By the end of this week's end, we will have 2 vacant physician extender positions. These are family nurse practitioner positions. One of those is a new position, so but we have been unable to fill that position. We have one of our senior clinician has reached retirement, and her last physical working day is this Friday, December 11th, and she will we've also been unable to fill the vacant environmental health division director position. We had a couple of good candidates, but we're unable to meet salary demands for those candidates. We have a number of other open positions across the health department, probably in excess of 20 open positions at this time. And these vacancies are affecting the work that we do across the department. I want to finish up on a happier note. Last year, some of you may remember, we did a Polar Express themed Great Fun Day event. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we will not be able to do that this year, but we will be doing a recorded reading of the Polar Express. Thank you to our PIO department for helping with that, which we will put out on our social media and YouTube channels for local children so that they can have Polar Express again this year. We also last year celebrated Ernie Davis Day at the health department. Ernie is one of my personal heroes. Ernie was the first African American to win the Heisman Trophy back in the 1960s. Played for Syracuse University, followed him around Syracuse University. We will hold an internal celebration for Ernie on December 14th, which is Ernie's birthday. And in the future, we hope to make this a public event and share the memory of this wonderful individual. Thank you for your time and attention tonight, and happy to take your questions.
Well, thank you, Dr. Silvernair, and I'm glad to see that you are doing as well as you are, and we look forward to you coming back to work very soon. Do we have any questions for Dr. Silvernair? Alex?
Yeah, thank you, and echo our chair's wishes, good wishes, and glad to see you and appreciate the work, and I hope we can get some of those positions filled. That's sad, bad news for us, I think. Can you comment on any observations about what we're hearing about rural and urban divides in the COVID cases, how it seems to be hitting rural areas a little more now? Have you noticed that in Pitt County?
That's a good question, Commissioner. I have not looked at that by zip code distribution. Unfortunately, sometimes in rural areas that doesn't work out as well as you might think because sometimes the zip codes are very, very broad. We look at it by age and race, but not necessarily by geographic distribution. In our data, the state doesn't really give us that. There is some zip code data if you look hard for it on their area. There does seem to be increased activity in rural areas. Again, as it circulates, it's
I wonder if you could update us on any conversations with Pitt County Schools and ECU about, I guess especially what's happening in the new semester in January, and if you might have advice for people who are dealing with students who are going home from ECU and students who are coming to Pitt County from other areas.
Sure. Pitt County Schools spoke with Dr. Lanker this afternoon. Pitt County Schools, we work with them, with our school nurses, Karen Harrington. She has Lee Cutler, our student supervisor on speed dial, and me on speed dial. We work very hard with them to make sure that we trace and track students and staff. We have more issues with staff to staff. Potential exposure to school rather than with kids. As I said, the burden of disease in that age group has been pretty flat. So we feel pretty comfortable that there's not a lot of circulation, there's not secondary transmission to school, I guess what kind of secondary. Children seem to require the infection outside of school or not at school. So maybe that's the way in school, but with the protective measures in place, they do not seem to be transmitting. We also know that pre-pubescent students seem less able to transmit it, so the K-9 age group transmission is reduced just by the behavior of the virus in that age group. With ECU, I had a telephone conference with Chancellor Richardson last Monday. We spoke about the incoming students in what I guess would be the spring semester in January. They're going to arrive later, I would say it's January 21st when the semester comes off. They will all be in single dorm rooms. They've done tremendous work on campus to try to compress both classrooms and the dorms. They've increased their isolation and quarantine space that they have available. They have their in-house contact tracing program, which we work with them closely on and support them on. They will be getting two state-provided surge staff that are contact investigators who help us with data entry in the ECU campus. Those are our lags in data entry this summer. We were able to do contact tracing and the investigation, but did it on paper and then backlog pages in the state reporting system. So by putting a couple of investigators there who have direct access to that system, that should improve our ability to get that data into the state system in a timely fashion. We have provided the student health service with antigen test kits that the state provided to us. Those are available for testing of symptomatic students. They're also using some of those in their equity surveillance program, especially basketball, football program. Basketball, given the number of games they play, won't give a lot of time to game weeks. They are tested daily with the antigen test and then a couple times a week to potentially with the PCR test as part of their surveillance program. Dr. Harvey and I talked earlier about that needed. We spoke about the data before Thanksgiving and without Thanksgiving. And Dr. Wright and I speak frequently. We got a telephone conference on that later this week. But we're pretty well plugged into both the school district and ECU. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes, thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you, Dr. Silvernail. My question relates to health and medical research and study. When people die with COVID, is it identified in the death certificate? Because one of the impacts that some of the health people were looking at is how the comparison between the typhoid and those fever times and looking at this. So how much is recorded onto the certificates?
We, I don't have a hard number on the vital statistics for you today, Commissioner. I can look that up and get that for you. In terms of what we put into the state electronic surveillance system, those are any cases that have a positive COVID test, and that can be either a PCR test or the antigen test. syndrome that's compatible with COVID and no period of recovery before the death, and no other explanation for the deaths. We do see a number, I want to say we're probably, I have to talk to my assistant registrar. I think we're somewhere, we have 58 that we reported in NCS. We probably have something similar to that in the vital statistics data, the death certificate data. Those, by definition, do not necessarily have positive tests, so if a physician believes that an individual had COVID, but does not have testing to support that, they can put that on the death certificate. The two, eventually the state plans to reconcile those into one combination death toll, but it has not been done on the state yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, Mr. Manager.
Okay. There's no other questions for Dr. Silvernail. We have next Dr. Walderman with Vidant Health that's going to address the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Secretary.
COVID, and here to give that update on COVID-19, the largest public health crisis in our nation's history. And it is clearly impacting us. I love this picture. Some of you may have known Mac Hodges, and I love this picture of him because to me it talks about what I love about Eastern North Carolina, the sense of community, the love for ECU. And I had the pleasure of getting to know Mac as we have a hospital just 30 miles down the street here in that community of Washington, and got to know him and work with him there.
He just had a good heart. He always wanted to help people. There were 6 of us. My 2 kids, my husband, myself, my mom, my dad, and if you looked at all 6 of us, you would not look at either one of us and think we had the same thing. About the time I started to feel somewhat better, that was when my dad went into the hospital.
If you have spent time with families like us, and you've seen their grief, and you've seen the effect that it has had on them, their children, and the worry and the fear, all of them come back and say, you know, I wish I had tried harder to prevent it, or I didn't think it would happen to my family. Every one of them has said, do all you can to tell people that this is real and to take it seriously.
People argue the face mask, there's a low percentage it works, but is it any percentage worth the risk?
That video to me speaks to what we do every day and what we're here to talk about and what we're here to prevent from happening in the future. I want to thank the Hodges family for a great memorial to their father and for helping us spread the word on the behaviors that we all need to take to help stop the spread, because we don't know who is going to be the next person that we're fighting to save. We find it as an honor to care for people across Eastern North Carolina. And MAC represents what we're fighting against. We have an incredible organization of dedicated professionals as the largest company in Eastern North Carolina, with people that are on that front line and are putting themselves at risk to take care of our community. Profound dedication by healthcare workers that aren't immune. I talk to many business leaders in this community almost every day, and they talk to me about their production engine being threatened by the fact that some of them are sick. We actually just saw that with Dr. Silvernail. If you can imagine Vidant Medical Center with 10 or 15% of the nurses or its workforce infected and not being able to care for the community as this virus is mounting and spreading within our community. We are not immune to this, and this picture shows the face of one of our nurses after a shift of wearing a mask for 12 hours. And they're really incredible people that I represent. And they're tired of wearing a mask, they're tired of COVID, frankly, as we all are, and they're tired of the deaths. They're tired, but they're dedicated, and they will continue to come in. And we all need to be reminded and talk about what we can each do to prevent the next death. Wear a mask, no gatherings, no gatherings. In a room like this, there's a 100% chance of someone spreading COVID to the next person if we were not wearing masks. I went by an organization on Friday night that had 50 people drinking and eating in a room. COVID was spread. That event will lead to spread that will lead to a hospitalization of someone in 3 weeks. And then after 5 days, 2 weeks in the ICU on average, they will die like Mac Hodges. We cannot make the direct connection, but the math is clear. The 2 highest weeks of death we had at Biden Medical Center were 4 weeks and 5 weeks after the bump that Dr. Silvernail said that we had in August when the students returned to campus. We know that that spread leads to this outcome that we are trying to prevent. So where are we? You heard a little bit about this. Everything in the nation, everything in North Carolina, and everything in Eastern North Carolina, and everything in Pitt County is increasing at the highest level we've seen, at the highest rates we've seen, and since the pandemic began. At Vidant Health, we've had 338 people that our team members struggled to save after 2 weeks on average in the ICU, and then the family was impacted like we saw the Hodges family. That rate is increasing. Hospitalizations currently are 158. 88 of those are at Vidant Medical Center right now. We have the highest level of ventilators in use today since we've had the beginning of the pandemic, and those patients are at the highest risk for dying. We've had over 58,000 positive case counts since March. And the positivities are increasing despite actually incredibly increased testing, and are currently at 12% positivity this week. We currently have 36 patients in the ICU. This shows Eastern North Carolina incidents per 1,000. You can see it compared to the state, and pretty much over the last month and a half, 2 months, we have been in Eastern North Carolina above the state average. And you can see currently in the east is somewhere around 2.6, I think that is, per 1,000 population. And then Pitt County is one of the leaders in incidents in the east. So the east is pulling the state up, and Pitt County is pulling the east up. And as you can see, the incidence rate in Pitt County has been increasing pretty significantly over the last week or so, and is approaching 3.5. So we're seeing increased cases, which lead to, after about 2 weeks, to increased hospitalizations. So those cases going up will lead to hospitalizations, and those will lead to deaths about a month to 6 weeks from now. We can do nothing to stop that reality. Those ones that are cases that I have just shown you will end up going down those paths. The question for us is, can we stop that trajectory between now and when there is a solution to the pandemic. We've been actively testing Eastern North Carolina. One of the largest testing initiatives in the state is through Biden. And we have done, you can see, a huge amount of tests across Eastern North Carolina, as mentioned, 7.79% since the pandemic began. On average, Pitt County, you can see over 40,000 tests resulted through Biden, and we have around 11% for our tests. In October 5th, we opened a drive-through testing facility to try to increase access to PCR testing. It's been crazy. We've done over 16,000 people through that, with close to 2,000 being positive, so 12% of the people that come through that line are positive. And the last 7 days, that has increased significantly to 16%. You can see the hours of operation. I do want to apologize for anybody that tried to go right before Thanksgiving. The governor had suggested that people get tested. We actually had people driving from Wake County because they couldn't get tested there. We had 4 and 5 hour wait times. We've done a lot of work improving access, and our wait times are considerably better right now. But if we get too big of a rush, we are concerned about those wait lines to get tested. And then lastly, vaccine. We are actively working with the state on the distribution of the vaccine, and then healthcare workers are in the 1A category, and so we are at the tip of the spear on getting vaccines and then administering them at Vidant Medical Center and across our institutions. You may see in the paper, the state announced, in the media, the state announced the first 11 hospitals that are going to get vaccine shipment. And the rest of the story is the other hospitals will get the shipment within 24 hours of the first 11. So logistically, it will not impede or delay us compared to those other hospitals. And that will be clarified tomorrow from the state. So we anticipate getting vaccine and administering vaccine within 2 weeks. However, vaccination will do nothing to change the math I showed you, and will do nothing to prevent this from increasing before we can vaccinate enough people and to help our healthcare workers save people like Mac Hodges. I encourage you to go to our website and see how you can help, and I very much encourage no gathering of people that are spreading the virus. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Dr. Walden. Melvin.
Thank you, Dr. Walter. I want to hear from you, just like it is. How serious are we in Pitt County right now with this COVID-19? And what should we be doing different that we are not doing? And my last part to that, if we're not doing what you say, what would be your recommendation moving forward?
I believe that we are like many communities in our country and in our state, that we are approaching, and these numbers show that we are approaching a very significant catastrophic situation with overwhelming the capabilities of, frankly, it's not the hospital and the beds, it's that face I showed you. So nurses and doctors, and having people that can take care of people. And I don't know if you've ever read about Rochester, Minnesota, but they are feeling that right now. They have, because it spreads in the community, and we are the largest employer in the community, and so our folks can get it. And so they can't come to work, just like we saw with Dr. Silvernail. And so that decreases our capacity to take care of other people. And in Rochester, Minnesota, a town I lived in for 8 years of my life, where the Mayo Clinic is, which is about the same size as Greenville, in a rural part of the country called southern Minnesota, they have had to ration how their services are provided because their staff has been infected. And so I feel like we're approaching that type of situation. So those numbers and that growth, those numbers do not account for the fact that it's going to get worse because of Thanksgiving. And then, as I mentioned, you asked what to do, and what I said not to do is to congregate. And so, as I mentioned, people are having Christmas parties. As I mentioned, I saw one Friday where over 40 people were in a room drinking and eating. And there's a 100% chance that COVID gets spread in an environment like that. We have to stop congregating in groups without masks. By far the most important thing.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Madam Chairman, we have the Greenville Means Go Safely initiative. We have Andrew Schmidt and Kate Teal who are going to present this initiative to you tonight via Zoom.
Thank you, Scott, and certainly thank you to Dr. Walden, Dr. Sullivan, all the healthcare workers who do its work. Also the county commissioners for providing leadership. Very interesting time, that's for sure. So Kate Teal and I are going to share the screen. Everybody can see that. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we will talk a little bit about recovery with the county businesses through travel, and also through a initiative called Greenville Means Go Safely initiative. So I'm going to talk about a 30,000 foot view, just talk about restore travel in Pitt County, and then Kate's going to talk a little bit about the initiative that look starting August 15th, and every weekend there's a theme, which is really important. It shows that if you can properly market with safety in mind, and make the safety primary message to bring people to your local businesses and county, it works. It's really interesting to see most of these weekends are higher on average than we were in 2019. And that's 2019 without COVID. So we know that people are coming for culinary, coming for retail, coming for outdoor adventure. It's a very interesting conversation I had with one of our others. She said that 1 out of every 2 persons that is using their businesses come out of income. So we know that safety is important. People respond to those safety messages. So that's very, very important. I just want to share that with you. It's be sure you get safe dealers. The messaging that we are sending out to each of those phase markets, especially the drive market and our residents, is to make sure that they understand and feel safe with local efforts like the Feel Safe campaign Kate's going to really talk about. And also the county agency program that the state has. There are businesses that participate in these things and they want to extra money to keep residents and visitors safe. We're sharing hospitality specific efforts for our destination. Our CDP just finished
want to thank Andrew and Kate for bringing this to us. Do you have questions? And certainly we want to keep Pitt County, Greenville, Pitt County safe. Do you have any questions?
Yes. Madam Chair?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, this is Chris Lundy. Sorry, I'm virtual. I just wanted to personally thank Andrew and Kate for both of your really steadfast leadership and creative leadership during this really, really challenging commercial time of our community's health, but also for our business community. And your work and your messaging is really exemplifying and driving what will, I'm sure, be a really strong recovery for our region. And it's due in large part to efforts such as these. We see as the virus jumps, business goes down, but your work is really not only driving the numbers down through this really strong messaging, but it's also driving people into these businesses and helping keep them afloat. As we saw statistics from early pandemics, 20th century with 1918 flu, it's communities that did things like this that had very strong recoveries. And I just thank you all so much, both Jim's, to our community, both CBD and the Chamber. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Before we have the manager's report, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
Just a quick break.
5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay.
5 minutes.
So it's 8:15, so 8:20 we'll resume. Chairman, so the first item I have is your next meeting date will be Monday, December 21st at 6 p.m.
Mr. Manager,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to suggest and ask the commissioners if we could exchange that since we're having the evening meeting now, and then have the morning meeting, go back to the morning meeting for our next meeting this month. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Swapping.
Yes.
Shouldn't be a problem if that's the desire of the board.
Is that a problem?
I don't care.
I'd rather have it at night personally.
I would too.
Wait a sec.
Said I'd rather have it at night personally.
I would also.
I don't care.
I think I'd like to see it in the morning.
Okay, can we take a,
You'll need a motion.
can I have a motion to move the December 21st meeting to 9 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock?
So moved.
And a second? Okay, since we don't have a second, so we'll let it stay at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you. The next item, we have a quick review of the federally submitted legislative goals that we talked about last meeting. Janice is going to just read those real quick, cover those.
Yes, as a follow-up from your last meeting, we did get some feedback from commissioners and shared them with the chairman, at the time, Chairman McLawhorn, and submitted to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners 2 federal goals. They are aligned with the goals that were priorities for the NCACC last year as well. Those goals were included in your weekly information packet last week, and they are to support direct and flexible COVID-19 relief for local governments. This includes funding for additional stimulus funds, equipment, or other resources such as freezers and things like that that might be needed for vaccine administration. The second goal relates to broadband access. You have a similar goal at the statewide level as well, and that's to support funding and legislation to expand high-speed broadband access coming from the federal level. So they have been properly submitted, and I'll continue to follow up on those and give you periodic updates as we progress through them. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, next we have the North Carolina Department of Commerce's tier ranking change for Pitt County. I'm sure you probably saw the article in the newspaper. Pitt County has moved from the tier 1. As you recall, there are 40 counties ranked as tier 1, 40 counties is ranked as tier 2, and 20 counties ranked as tier 3. The tier 3 is your least distressed counties, tier 2 is in the middle, and then tier 1 is a distressed rating. Last year, a year ago, we were moved from tier 2 to tier 1, and at the time I had said that based upon the 4 factors they use, that being population growth, the valuation per capita or per person, the amount of value per worth per person in Pitt County, the unemployment rate, and the median household income, that I said very well, a year from now, I said a year ago, that we could change all the way back to tier 2. I got a call from Commerce prior to them issuing the press release, letting us know that there was a change. They wouldn't tell me exactly at the time what it was. They wanted to go over the numbers with me with their demographer. I said, well, just tell me this, will Pitt County have a change? And he said, yes. Well, I knew we weren't going to be tier 3. We were already tier 1, so we had to be moving to tier 2, which is what we resulted in. The thing that really pushed us over the edge on it was not necessarily our valuation per capita. Obviously, through our property revaluation, the value of our property did go up quite a bit, but it was actually above and beyond that, our population growth is what really pushed us. We're on the bubble. We slid in back into tier 2, but we're not a solid tier 2. So depending upon how things go over the next 12 months, hopefully we'll retain that tier 2 or could move otherwise. Had 2 other items to announce. Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. Are we tier 1 or tier 2?
We are now tier 2 for 2021.
I mean,
Pardon me?
She didn't understand who
Okay.
it seems to me you were tier 1, then tier 2, and then you said 3.
We started out, we've been tier 2 for a number of years.
Right.
Then for 2020, we were reclassified to tier 1. Now
Right.
for 2021, we're reclassified back up to a tier 2 county for economic
And you said it was population.
was the main factor that pushed us.
Thank you.
Sure. Two other items real quick. One being that the James has asked me to announce that on the NC 43 South Corridor Land Use Plan, they're going to hold another public input meeting. It will be a virtual meeting on Wednesday, December 16th from 4 to 5 p.m. You received this in your info packet, but I'm just making the board aware at the meeting tonight. The other item I got to announce real quick is Pitt County a company called Harvest Beam Broadband reached out to our chairman, former chairman Melvin McLaughlin, regarding broadband service for Pitt County. As you're aware, we had talked about this as of recent through another provider. I've gone through an RFP process, and we'll be coming to you actually at your next meeting to talk further about broadband. But this company, Broadbeam, Harvest Beam, who's seeking broadband access for Pitt County, is right now targeting southern Pitt County and eastern southern Pitt County with their resources. And basically, they are going to be targeting farm operations that may need fixed wireless, residential areas, businesses, as such. Again, so farming, residences, agricultural suppliers, and tech and data firms. They are seeking USDA funds to implement this project. They'll also be using end user revenue from the residences, businesses, and so forth for the part of their revenue stream. They are seeking a letter of support from our chairman as they submit their grant application to the USDA for this effort, and we would recommend that the chair be authorized to sign a letter so we can get another broadband company in here to serve Pitt County, all the better for us.
Did you say it's going to be South Pitt County?
This one has a tier of counties that would cover the southern portion of Pitt County and then the southeastern portion. The other company you dealt with before, their infrastructure was more geared toward northern and northeast Pitt County, as I recall, initially. Now this would be basically for their first initial attempt at going out and providing the service.
Are you saying that they are targeting putting resources in those areas that currently have them, for the most part?
The series of counties that they're targeting their infrastructure for, I believe there are 10 counties. Lenore, Pitt, Greene, Craven, Beaufort. Right, it had to be a contiguous counties, contiguous line going across, and this would serve a portion of southern Pitt County, not a large portion, but a portion in their first phase. They did show a second phase that then would expand even further up into southern Pitt County and the eastern band. It's all got to be contiguous as such. But again, they're seeking federal funding for this primarily, and at this point have not asked for any Pitt County dollars.
This two is not there. This two is not there. Because we don't have broadband.
Yeah, go to the mic.
It's the echo.
So the manager and I just had a call on Friday with this company. They're just seeking a letter of support for their federal grant application. That's all we're asking for. So they can take their spectrum that they purchased and then implement fixed wireless contiguous to those 4 or 5 counties.
Does it have anything to do with the other stuff?
This is just another company
That's all I want to know. Because I couldn't even get on
Yes,
broadband today.
that would be great.
Second it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Manager.
So you have a motion for the motion and a second by Commissioner Fitzpatrick and second by Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Mandate has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chris? Oh, okay. Okay, it's been moved and proper second that we accept the
Recommendation to prepare and submit a letter of support to
letter of support.
Harvest
Okay.
Beam.
Madam?
Commissioner McLaughlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Colson?
Yes.
Commissioner Albright?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Chair Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White, yes, Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I'll entertain a motion to,
I
approve
move
the-
that we accept the items for consent.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the item for consent. Madam?
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Chair Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White, yes, Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we move to items for discussion. Scott, rules
Yes,
and procedures.
Madam Chair, you have before you your rules procedure, and your rules procedure call out to that the board will affirm or take recommended changes to the rules procedure. These were provided to the board in a prior weekly info packet, and there has been no changes to this at this point in time. So unless there's a recommended change, a motion to reaffirm or reconfirm the rules procedure
Madam
would be in
Chair,
order.
I'd like to propose, if I may, a change, and it has to do with the order of business, and take item 8, which is public addresses to the board, and move it behind item 5, and then have 6 and 7 moved to 7 and 8. And the reason for that is there are many times when we have public hearings that go on for a very long time, and people that might come in just to make a public address, they have to sit there for an extended period. It would just seem to me that it'd be a little bit more courteous of us to the public if we were to make that small change.
I'll second that.
Oh,
I
Madam,
agree with that.
Madam Attorney, is there any ruling on where we should put it, or?
No, that's your choice, based upon the will of the board. So what's in your rules came from suggested form rules, but based on your experience, it's certainly appropriate to consider alternatives and would not be illegal. You would just need, if Commissioner Colson's was in the form of a motion. I
That
believe
is a motion on my part.
There was a second to it.
Okay. Now, Tom, state again where you want to.
Okay, item 8, which is public addresses to the board, and that's under section 6, order of business, and move it behind 5, and take 6 and 7 and let them move up to 7 and 8. So it's just indexing it forward so that it's ahead of public addresses and not public addresses, but I mean public hearings and stuff.
Okay. Motion to move to
Reposition 8 behind 5.
yes. So, it's been second, so, Madam?
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Oh, yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Chair Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White, yes, Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
So,
Motion passes unanimously.
so that was a change to our rules of procedures.
Just
With that change from Tom. Next item, Scott.
Yes, Madam Chair, you have before you a request from Commissioner Mary Perkins Williams for a training that she would like the board to consider her to partake in. Per your policy, this requires board action due to the only having travel funds or training funds budget for regular in-state and out-of-state purposes, like an annual conference or as such. So this only has a cost of $360, so it is minor, and we can absorb it in the budget.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we approve the $360 for training for the Development Finance Toolbox for Commissioner Perkins Williams. Madam?
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Chair Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White, yes, Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next item.
Okay, the next item is entitled Resolution Opposing Homeowners Insurance Rate Increase. This item was mentioned by Commissioner White at your last meeting, and staff was directed to work with her to draft a resolution on this. You have that resolution drafted on page 119. You have
Motion to
taken.
approve the resolution.
Did Commissioner Pitt, Vice Chair, make a motion to approve? Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that the resolution,
Do we have any discussion? I've sort of had a couple of comments or just questions about it.
okay. Yes.
I'm just curious about the first whereas, and then, I like the resolution. I'm grateful that you brought it to our attention. It seems like the second whereas is kind of vague. I didn't understand it. And that the actual end of the resolution, I'm not sure about this actual loss history, if we shouldn't actually stipulate what it is. And I don't know if what the answer to that question would be, but if we know that, why wouldn't we put it in the resolution? I'm grateful. I mean, I think this is a quick timetable too. I think it's part of what Commissioner White is talking about here. It's like in 3 days, this hearing, and it's important that we get a voice to it. But I'm not sure. I wish that this had more specifics in it, I guess. And I don't know how at this point it's possible. I don't want to do anything to delay an action by this board on this issue.
As staff, we had looked at this and did some research on it. What I could find for you, beginning on page 120, you have the information from the North Carolina Department of Insurance in terms of announcing the public hearing, announcing what had occurred 2 years ago in terms of an initial increase of 17.4%, and then stating that they had reduced that or negotiated that down to 13.4%, and then even lower to 4%. There wasn't a whole lot out there. Found some information from the North Carolina Realtors Organization, but beyond that, the last statement does ask that the North Carolina Department of Insurance include actual rate history or actual loss history for Eastern North Carolina. I think it's asking them to take that into account. There's also on that website, it lists all 100 counties, and normally the eastern part of the county versus the Piedmont or versus the western part of the county might have different rates depending upon the loss history. The table that they illustrated showed all 100 counties with a 24.5% increase on every single county going all the way down.
So is the discriminatory, is that versus Eastern Carolina because of our rates in the second whereas? Is that what we're talking about here?
Potential, I think, based upon past, this is not the first time you've done a resolution like this. I think there's been 2 other times. In the past, there has been some, Eastern North Carolina has been treated with rates that initially that were excessive or maybe unfairly discriminatory based upon the fact that we're at Hurricane Alley with the storms coming this way as such.
Again, I like the resolution intent of it. I wish that was clearer, that our region is getting treated differently and that we're more apt to have higher insurance claims. And I may be wrong on that, but it seems like that might be what's going on here.
Could you get
there's an easy resolution. Again, I'm not wanting to stop the vote or moving forward, but the commissioner, the board, are commenting on this in the way we are.
But again, right now, they're proposing 24.5% statewide. So it's not necessarily, at least out the gate, it's not necessarily saying that Eastern North Carolina will be excessive compared. Some people interpret that the rate increase statewide is excessive, but not necessarily Eastern North Carolina.
Well, I have a question since you raised that, Alex. The one about the Realtors Organization. Would we want to single out an organization or just say other stakeholders would be?
That was the,
a good group to call out because, I mean, they have experience and knowledge in the field.
And they said that.
it was the one data point or information point that we could identify of an organization that took a stand on this. Again, they're limited research, but from what I found, they were the only one I could actually find out there that on their website had made a position on it.
So you have other, I mean, nobody else have, so I'm wondering, should we?
I don't know if there's any harm to it. It's a factual statement that they made on their site.
That's clear. That seems very clear.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is I don't think there's anything necessarily improper about calling out the one. Going back to the paragraph 2, based on Commissioner Albright's comments, one solution might be just to strike "and unfairly discriminatory," because I'm not sure that there's any information that supports a traditional notion of discrimination.
That's kind of a red flag, the use of that word.
And
Just
if
stop
you,
at excessive.
and just stop at excessive, which then supports your North Carolina Realtors Organization reference, because that is another entity that agrees that the rate is excessive. So that might fit a little bit better as one possible way to address both calling out the one, at least you're calling it out consistent with what your first assertion is, and just saying that, hey, somebody else agrees with me.
Can't you make an editorial change and just drop that little part out?
To remove "and unfairly discriminatory" from the second whereas.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go with the motion with the amendment. Okay. All, can we say all in favor?
Roll call.
Madam,
So just for the record, I have,
editing it as a group.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick, and I thought Commissioner White seconded it, but Ms. Ward, and then I heard
yeah,
Commissioner Colson as well.
Beth seconded and she accepted he amended and she accepted.
Okay. Commissioner McLaughlin,
Okay.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Colson?
Yes.
Commissioner Albright?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Chair Floyd Huggins?
Yes.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Item for decision.
Next, you have before you the proposed board meeting calendar for calendar year 2021, as well as the corresponding budget calendar as we develop the fiscal year 21-22 budget in terms of meeting dates that will begin in January for the board's consideration.
Okay. Entertain a motion to accept.
Move.
Seconded. Okay.
I would like to have, if this is proper, to have the board give some consideration to having one meeting, possibly one meeting.
What was that?
To moving the 2 meetings a month to 1 meeting a month, having that.
Statutorily, you're required to have at least one meeting per month, and you're also required to have public input at those meetings. My only concern would be the volume of material that you'd have to deal with and how late the meeting might go until, but it can be done if the board so chooses.
I just kind of wanted to throw my 2 cents in there, whether we have 1 meeting or 2 meetings. I would ask the board to consider that all meetings be at 6 p.m. to better help with certain commissioners' work schedules, and also the public that wants to call in, listen in, come in for public comments that work. It would be more convenient for them in the evenings.
Oh, well, okay. Beth, you have something to say?
I know earlier, when we had a conversation that we called
Yes, years ago, it was all morning meetings, and the sentiment on the board was to keep them all morning, then the compromise was to have one morning and one night to allow the public to come in.
Yes, I remember one of the reasons, main reasons for that were that the people that work in the county, you know, all day that have to be at the meetings, like, we can look around and see, have them on there, but there's still some here. And I would hate for them to have to come out 2 evenings a month, you know, for a meeting, and assuming you don't get paid extra to be here.
From a management standpoint, our concern was at the time was to at least have one meeting at night so those citizens that needed to come out for public
That's what
hearings,
I'm like.
to want to address the board and so forth, because if you had both in the morning, the public would have less access if they had work schedules, thinking if they worked first shift. So
I certainly don't.
I wouldn't be so
want
concerned
one-
about the county staff. We'll accommodate them however we need to.
Feel like that it helps to have some of the people and seems to work. To me, it's worked much better than it did when
Yeah. Mary, you have something to say?
I thought I heard something about one meeting a month.
Yeah, that's what,
That's gonna be too long. Look how long we sitting in here at night.
we have an evening, and then we have
I want one morning, one evening, and that'll give people a chance to come. And you can set things up on a calendar based on the people coming. I mean, I don't mind, because actually, when you ran, you know you're working. I mean, we just need to keep it like that. If we have one meeting, we're gonna be here all night.
Well,
And I'm ready to go home right now.
I'd be okay with 2 meetings at night personally. And the thing is, that does help people, like you work full-time, right? And people that are working, it will help them be able to accommodate. On top of that, it gives the public greater access at nighttime to a meeting. If they have it in the morning, they've got to take off from work. A lot of times they got to either burn vacation, lie to their employer that they're sick or something in order to be able to show up, or they just don't show up. So it kind of prevents, I think it throws a roadblock into the way of some people. So I'm okay with both of them being nighttime.
Commissioner Colson.
Okay, we're going to have a vote on,
So right now, you have a motion on the floor by Melvin, seconded by Beth Ward, to approve the calendar that's written.
oh, okay.
Is your motion that's on the floor, unless there's a substitute motion that's made to consider an alternative, the substitute motion will be voted on first.
Okay, so I need to,
I make a substitute motion that both meetings every month be at 6 p.m.
I'll second that.
okay, it's been moved and seconded that we have 2 meetings a month at evening meetings.
6 p.m.
So we're going to vote
You
on,
vote on your substitute motion first. So
Vote on the
first,
sub-
you're voting on 2 evening meetings, both at 6
we're
p.m.
voting on 2 evening meetings, okay?
How many of us work during the day?
But that doesn't matter, let's just vote on it.
Yeah. Okay,
What's the motion of you?
the motion is to have 2 evening meetings.
Well, you have 2 motions on the floor. The original motion is to keep the schedule as is, as proposed. The substitute motion you're going to vote on first is to have the 2 meetings at 6 p.m. each month.
And Commissioner Nunley has his hand up.
Chris, you have a question? I mean, you have a,
If the discussion is over, I'll lower it, but I just wanted, I guess, chime in that I do feel like for transparency and accessibility to the public, or we can increase accessibility to the public better, I'll just leave it at that.
Commissioner McLaughlin?
What is it?
we're voting on 2 evening meetings.
No.
So the substitute motion would have you meet twice a month at nighttime. If this motion fails, then we'll go back to the original motion, which is the 9 a.m. and 6
evening
p.m. meeting schedule as we've had historically.
I'm voting no on tonight.
Okay, Commissioner Colson?
Yes.
Commissioner Albright?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Chair Floyd Huggins,
No.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
No.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
No.
Motion passes 5-4.
Okay. We'll,
I have a question.
Could I make a motion?
I have a
that we
question.
start at 5?
That was, I was gonna ask that question because we can go up to 1 o'clock in the morning, especially when those long meetings.
We still have two.
is there a second? To starting at 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock?
I think that still puts a burden on the people working. Not just commissioners, I'm talking about people that are getting off of work, to come to the meeting. Now they got to face traffic to try to get there.
Let me just say this. We're talking about people coming to our meeting, and we are televised. And so we don't have a lot of people coming to our meeting unless there's a particular issue on the agenda. People stay home and watch. But if you're talking about they're coming to speak about an issue, then, yes. But I just don't see a lot of people coming to our meetings. So I just want to put that up. So there was a motion on the floor to start at 5 o'clock. So there was not a second, so it died.
I second.
Oh. Okay, it's been moved and second that we start at 5 o'clock. Madam Clerk.
So the motion is to have 2 evening meetings per month beginning at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
No.
Commissioner Albright,
No.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
No.
Chair Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley, Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
No.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion fails 5-4. So we have 2 night meetings at 6 p.m. and we will revise the calendar and bring it back on the 21st.
Okay. All right.
I won't hear nobody complain about early morning.
We'll go to closed session.
Oh, you have item on the agenda?
I have one question.
Yes.
This vote tonight, does that mean that this calendar, this time, would last for a year?
Yes, unless you as a board change it at some point in the year.
So we can flip-flop when we get ready?
Pardon me?
We can flip-flop when we get ready?
You could,
That's all I want to know.
if you change your mind, we'll need some lead time on that because we'll have various advertising, so many days, 30, 45 days out in some public hearings. But if you do change your mind the first quarter of the year, you could go back and you could change it to something else.
The reason I asked the question is because when we meet at 9 o'clock, sometimes we are 12 or 1 o'clock getting out. I mean, a lot of times. That's all I was asking about. Thank you.
Okay.
So you've added an agenda item for DSS, the CDBG coronavirus budget amendment,
Oh,
and
okay.
the good news item about
I
the
move approval. Oh.
eviction and utility assistance.
I was trying to go in closed session.
And Mrs.
I'm
Elliott,
sorry, Madam Director.
Ms. Elliott is going to give us a quick presentation. Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay. Chair.
Beth?
I second
Okay, it's been moved and second that we
for the
approve the,
recommendation that she made.
approve the recommendation coming from our DSS director. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick, Chair Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Now we'll go into closed session.
Yes.
It has been suggested that this board go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4 to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body, and also under 143-318.11A1 to prevent the disclosure of confidential information if this board will so move. Second.
It's been moved and second that we go into closed session, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Chair Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.